Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. The play is set in New Orleans, which was during 1940s. It is described as a shabby place, but many of them find it very charming. We find Stanley and Stella Kowalski living in the downstairs flat of a faded corner building. Blanche Du Bois, who is Stella's sister, comes there and she says that she had to take a streetcar named Desire and then to transfer to one called Cemeteries and ride 6 blocks and get off at Elysian Fields to reach them. Blanche is a fading southern belle from Laurel, Mississippi. She was actually an English teacher and she is dressed in all white. She is delicate and moth-like. Blanche tells her sister Stella that Belle Reeve, the family plantation, has been lost and that she has been given leave from her teaching position due to her nerves. So she has come here to relax and then go back. Blanche observes and criticizes Stella's surroundings and feels sorry for Stella's fall from the elite upbringing. Stella's husband Stanley Kowalski executes raw, animal, violent sexuality. While Blanche flutters in semi-darkness, soaks in the bath and surrounds herself in silky clothes and costume jewels, Stanley rips off his sweaty shirts under the bare kitchen light lamp. Though Stella still cares for her sister, her life has become defined by her role as Stanley's wife. Their relationship is primarily based on sexual chemistry. Stella's ties to New Orleans, rather than the lost Belle Reeve, are further emphasized through her pregnancy. She is bringing a new Kowalski, not a dubious, life into the world. While Blanche is bathing, Stanley rummages through her trunk, suspecting Blanche of having sold Belle Reeve and cheated Stella and himself out of the inheritance. Blanche reveals that the estate was lost due to a foreclosed mortgage, showing Stanley the bank papers to prove it. Later that night, Stanley and his friends are in their drunken poker night when Blanche and Stella return from an evening out. Stanley's friend Mitch attracts Blanche, and as she asks Stella about him, she manages herself skillfully in the light to be caught half dressed in stiletto. Blanche and Mitch flirt. Blanche hangs a paper lantern over a bare bulb. Stanley finds that Blanche is interrupting the poker game. Eventually, Blanche turns on the radio and Stanley storms into the bedroom and tosses the radio out of the window in his anger. When Stella tries to make peace, Stanley hits her. Blanche and Stella escape upstairs to Eunice's apartment. The other men dose Stanley in the shower, which sobers him up, and he is remorseful. He comes out and shouts his wife named Stella on top of his voice. Stella immediately slips back downstairs into Stanley's arms, and Mitch comforts Blanche in her distress. The next morning, Stella is calm and radiant, while Blanche is still hysterical. Stella admits that she is thrilled by Stanley's aggression. Blanche wants her to leave. She has no desire to get out. Blanche suggests that they contact Shep Huntlake, a Dallas millionaire, to help them escape. The only thing holding Stella and Stanley together, Blanche says, is a rattle-trap streetcar named Desire. Stanley overhears Blanche criticize him as being coarse and subhuman. Later, Stanley hints that he knows some repugnant details about Blanche's past, and Blanche is nervous. While Blanche is in the apartment for Mitch to pick her up for a date, a young man comes to collect money for the paper. Blanche fervently flirts with him and kisses him on the mouth before Mitch arrives. When Blanche and Mitch return from their date, she is exhausted and still nervous from Stanley's hints. Blanche is still playing at being a knave southern belle who still blushes at a kiss. Mitch boasts of his manliness and speaks about his athleticism rather than stripping his sweaty shirt and baring his torso. Blanche melodramatically tells Mitch about a tragic love life. When she was 16, she married a young man who turned out to be homosexual. Blanche reproached her husband while they were dancing the Varsanova polka, and her husband committed suicide. Blanche is still haunted by his death. After a month later, Blanche is soaking in the bath while Stella prepares Blanche's birthday dinner. Stanley tells Stella all about Blanche's sordid history in Laurel as Blanche sings Paper Moon from the bathroom. After losing Belly Reeve, Blanche moved on to the dubious Hotel Flamingo until getting kicked out for her promiscuous ways. Blanche is not taking a leave from her school due to her nerves, as she told her sister, but she was actually fired for having an affair with a 17-year-old student. Stella is horrified on hearing this and is further horrified when Stanley tells her that he has also told these stories to Mitch. Stanley informs Stella that he has brought Blanche a one-way bus ticket back to Mississippi. Mitch does not show up for Blanche's birthday party. Blanche senses that something is wrong. Stanley and Stella are tense too. Blanche tries to telephone Mitch but is unable to contact him. Stanley presents Blanche with the bus ticket and Blanche rushes out of the room. Stanley and Stella begin a huge fight, but Stella goes into labor. Later that evening, Blanche is alone in the apartment and drunk. The Varsovia is playing in her mind. Mitch, also drunk, arrives and confronts Blanche. She admits that Stanley's stories are true. After her husband's suicide, she had sought solace in the comfort of strangers. A Mexican woman comes to the door and offers flowers para los mitres. Mitch tries to have sex with Blanche, but without agreeing to marry her, though he then stops himself. She cries, "Fire, fire," and he stumbles away. It's several hours later the same night, and Blanche has been drinking steadily since Mitch left. Stanley comes home from the hospital to get some rest before the baby comes. Blanche has put on an absurd white evening gown and a rhinestone tiara. Blanche makes up a story about Shep Huntley sending her a telegram from Dallas, and then tells Stanley that Mitch came back on his knees with roses to beg for forgiveness. Stanley bursts out of the bathroom in his brilliant silk pajamas and advances on Blanche. She attempts to resist him, but Stanley overpowers her with physical force and rapes her. Weeks later, Stella and Eunice are packing Blanche's bag while the men play poker in the kitchen and Blanche takes a bath. They have made arrangements for Blanche to go to a mental asylum, but Blanche believes Shep Huntley is coming at last to take her away. Blanche had told Stella about the rape, but Stella refuses to believe her because she trusts her husband. When Blanche emerges from the bath worrying about the cleanliness of the graves and speaking of drowning in the scene, a doctor and matron from the asylum arrive and Blanche sweeps through the poker players to the door. When she realizes that this is not Shep Huntley come to take her away, she runs back into the house. Stanley pulls out the paper lantern off the light bulb. The matrons catch Blanche and drags her out. The doctor treats her more calmly, calling her by name, and Blanche calms down and says that she has always depended on the kindness of strangers. The doctor leads her off stage. Stella, holding a baby in arms, breaks down and Stanley comforts her with loving caresses. The story ends here. It's a beautiful story by Tennessee Williams, and this play was very successful and is still successful. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe. Thank you.